Hello YouTube! You're probably wondering where our usual video uploads are. Well, we've had something cooking that we're finally ready to introduce you to today. The Artistry Games Show. 30 or so odd minutes worth of our best content all in one video for you to enjoy. No jumping between playlists, no filtering through videos to figure out what's most recent, just one click and get the highlights of the week. Today we've got my preview of the Evolve Big Alpha event, and an interview with one of the developers behind LA Cops. Be sure to stick around, and if you like what you see, subscribe and like. Hello everybody, welcome again to another Artistry Games interview. Today I'm sitting down with Modern Dreams' Ollie Clark. How you doing, Ollie?
Okay, I'm good. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. For those who don't know, what is LA Cops?
So, LA Cops is a bright, vibrant, top-down shooter where you play one of or a couple of 70s cops.
Got a very Hotline Miami style to it, meets Miami Vice. What was the inspiration for that style? Was it something your team had wanted to do for a while, or is it something more recent you came up with?
So we did a game before LA Cops called The Button Affair, which had a very crisp, clean, sort of cel-shaded, light, vibrant art style that we've been testing out to see if people would go for it, and it worked out really well. So we thought, okay, let's see if we can take it a step further, and we were inspired by paintings by David Hockney and Edward Ruska, who did a standard painting, which had really crisp, clean style. We thought, okay, let's try and recreate that in a game, and that was really the core of where the art style came from.
And you also put a very unique spin on the style of gameplay. You have two cops controlled by one player. Was that the original plan, or were you going for something more strategic at one point, or was there a co-op mode that just molded into the single player?
So originally we were looking at a classic game called Syndicate, which I'm sure many people know, was on the 16-bit platforms like the Amiga, Atari ST, and some PCs. And in that game, you could control multiple agents at the same time. And we wanted to take something of that forward because not many people had done it for many years. We thought it's about time someone else made another game with that element in it.
Also, you put in a unique aiming system for the gameplay, where lining up headshots isn't just about spraying and praying. You actually can line them up and the reticule will turn red when it's ready for a critical hit. How did that system come about?
That was quite a tricky one to do because the camera itself is isometric, but then you're looking at it on a flat plane, and of course it's a 3D engine, and getting that reticule to line up so that what you're looking at is what is lining up in the game, and we wanted to have that so the player can choose, where they're shooting and what they're shooting at. We do have a lock-on feature as well, so it gives players a choice of how they want to take out the enemies when they bust in a room.
You also seem to have a very 70s, 80s style of influence in your games, because like you said, with the Button Affair, that was very much, James Bond meets Cannabolt, almost, and now we've got old school cops with big afros and big attitudes, busting criminals in LA Cops.
Yeah.
What particularly about those eras draws Modern Dream in?
I think it's the fantasy, the escapism, it's about creating experiences, and we're always looking for themes that we can explore that haven't been explored for a while, and hopefully bring something fresh to. So we don't always want to be doing whatever's current. We want to be looking for something that's a bit different, but hasn't been done for a while and is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Also, there is one thing you've done a bit differently from what movies and television would have done in that era. You've got a very diverse cast of characters in LA Cops. Was it intentional to have such a wide variety of ethnicities and genders in LAPD, or did it just kind of happen by accident?
It was deliberate, yeah, because I work with in the games industry. We tend to it's a pretty diverse industry. You have people I've worked with people from all over the world, and I like that. I always find it's interesting when you get people together from different cultures and races and backgrounds, and that's interesting. And I think I just wanted to reflect that in the game.
Well, it was nice, and it was very refreshing. It was very nice to see that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think a lot of games are a bit two-dimensional. You used to have the Space Marine and armor, and you might have a female Space Marine and armor. There's not a lot of characterization in them, and I wouldn't say we've got the budget to explore a lot of that, but we definitely wanted to do what we could.
I'm going in.
This is your team's first time using Early Access. What are your thoughts on the program from having used it so far? And how's the community response been to LA Cops on Steam?
So initially, we had a bit of a bumpy start because we put out one level, and we did that deliberately, but I don't think that went across too well because people wanted more. They were enjoying what they had, and they wanted a lot more. We did get out more levels very quickly. Within a week, 2 weeks. Within a few weeks, we had 5 levels in. That didn't go across so well with the players. However, once we did get the levels in, players were like, "Oh, I'm loving this. I'm really into it," and that was great. For us, it was good to get a version of the game out and see really what the issues were, because often we're in a bubble and we're not really aware of what players are enjoying and what they're not enjoying. And the players, they do know what they enjoy and what they don't enjoy, and they've told us directly. So the version we put out on early access was at a certain standard. We took their feedback on board, we addressed it, we put out new versions and updates, and then when we took a version of the game across to Eurogamer, we were lucky enough to have Stick Twiddlers give us an editor's choice.
Oh, very nice.
Which was great, very flattering. But I think it was as a result of listening to players' feedback on early access, it just raised the quality that much. And I think one of the best things about early access is that player feedback. And that's, if you're going to do it, that's why you should do it. That's the only reason, so that you can make your game as polished and high quality as possible. And I'm really glad we did it, because I think the results of the feedback and implementation that we put in, they made all the difference. And I think the Eurogamer show just showed that it really was worth it for us.
All right, you cite Syndicate as a major influence. Not meaning to spoil any possible future projects here, but are there any other older genres and subgenres in gaming you'd like to see explored again? Because as you quite accurately put, not a lot of people have tried to control multiple agents in a live action scenario. Most of the time it's either XCOM where it's turn-based or it's a single character. So anything more out there like that you guys would like to do?
Yeah, I think there's quite a few. I mean, there was an old game called Z-Wolf, which I don't know if many people will be aware of, which was a helicopter combat action arcade game, it was in 3D, but it was a lot of fun. And I think there are some almost like GTA isometric. It would be great to take Helicopters and make it into something more like GTA, still have the isometric view and allow players to have fun with that.
Oh my gosh, that would be awesome.
It would be great, wouldn't it? I'd love to do that. And there are a lot of classic games on the old computers. Some of them wouldn't transfer so well, but I think a lot of them would, because they're so accessible. You don't have to learn combinations of controls on a joypad to enjoy them. And I think we're missing a lot of that in games today. And I think we're starting to see it in iOS, and we're starting to see more of it in the indie scene. But I think there's still a lot more games that could be based on 16-bit games, updated, modernized, as you say, like Syndicate or Cannon Fodder or Z-Wolf or the old GTA, that would be a lot of fun to do and players would get a kick out of.
All right. What's your favorite part of LA Cops?
Oh, that's a good question. I think for me, it is just the gunfighting. It's the game we wanted to make. I love top-down shooters. Always have done since the old days. And it's great to see Hotline Miami show that people still wanted games like that. It gave us the excuse to do one, definitely. And yeah, I love going in a room and just getting in a gunfight and just seeing all those guys rushing towards you. And we've added in some more features recently where enemies will come out at you in waves, and it just puts the pressure on you. You have to make sure that you've got you and your partner in good positions to take them out as they come towards you. So that's my favorite bit.
All right. Well, we've gotten through the questions a lot faster than anticipated. And
Sorry,
oh, it's fine, man. It's fine, man. At the end of our interviews, we like to let our interviewee ask us or our audience one question.
Yeah.
So, take your time. If there's any question you have for me or our audience, please feel free to shoot it.
Yeah. I would say, if there was an artist, like whether a past master or a modern artist that you or your listeners think would be a great art style to see in games, I'd love to hear about it and see what people think about that.
I'd really be curious to see someone try to make a game with like a Picasso style, because that would take a lot of abstract thinking, making the game design work with some of his more abstract paintings.
Yeah, yeah, that's an
I mean, I'm not
interesting one.
I'm not saying necessarily echochrome type of thing where, it's like really out there sort of level navigation. I'm just thinking he drew some very different stuff, type of stuff you'd only see in like something out of Xenoclash. So it'd be neat to see something like that. And
Yeah.
those of you watching, please be sure to let us know in the comments below what art styles you think would be great to see explored in a game from one of the old masters. Alright, Ollie, I want to thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a pleasant evening.
Thank you. Thanks for chatting with me. It's been good.
Alright, for more on LA Cops, be sure to watch out for our video preview, which will be updated with the new features that Ollie was mentioning in LA Cops. And if you want to see our written preview, it's going to be down in the description below, linked. Be sure to let us know in the comments your thoughts and feelings, and any other questions you might have for Ollie.
Tell your children not to walk my way. Tell your children not to hear my words, what they mean, what they say, mother.
For those who know me, it's been well stated that I'm a skeptic of Evolve. While on its own the game is fine, it just feels out of place in the current gaming landscape. It feels like it should be a $20 downloadable title, not a full $60 release. Its lack of promoting anything other than a single mode of play reminds me too much of Titanfall's limited promotion and launch offerings. All that's been promoted is a single mode of play, and this reminds me way too much of Titanfall's limited promotion and launch offerings. Its progression system, when announced, sounded atrociously designed. The gameplay sounded way too simple and repetitive, even if it were a grindfest sort of game like Borderlands. The last nail in the coffin, at least for my interest, was when the game was advertised as having a pre-planned DLC Season Pass. The developers have explicitly said the game was built for DLC. This from the developers who made Left 4 Dead 2 and released a ton of free expansion materials for its PC version. I'm telling you these reservations now because I was going into the beta alpha with a very notable chip on my shoulder. Now you're probably expecting I'm going to turn around and say I was blown away, that all my concerns are gone, everything about the game was truly wonderful. We'll drop those expectations right at the door. While Evolve is better than I had anticipated, with some of my concerns now put at bay, it's hampered by actually new issues, and some of my old concerns were proven valid. I understand this is not the final release, but you do not have a non-NDA alpha with thousands of gamers getting access on every next-gen platform and PC without clearly being extremely confident in your game. I normally would approve of 2K for being so confident in its developers. That's how we've ended up with games like Mafia 2, the Bioshock series, the Bureau XCOM Declassified, the Darkness, and most recent Grand Theft Auto entries. Here, though, that confidence seems really misplaced. For those of you living under a firmly placed rock, Evolve is the game/story of four hunters going up against a giant beast like it's a late 70s to early 80s sci-fi thriller flick. Except for when it's basically a slow garden walk version of Titanfall because your jetpacks take 30 seconds to be usable again. Also, except for when it becomes Clown Entertainer Simulator 2014, the Kids Have Dart Guns edition, but I digress. You either work as one of the four hunters and have fun, or play as the monster and we're back to Clown Entertainer Simulator. It's only a competitive multiplayer, and while the game outright demands you give it your preferred class before entering matchmaking, ignoring the fact that this could be your first time playing, you'll only sometimes get what you want. Even if you try your hardest and thousands of other players are playing at once, you will still get stuck with the role of the monster character. This would be fine if it really didn't feel like you're doing the job of a clown meant to entertain children instead of having fun yourself. I know I'm harping a bit on this, but I really cannot emphasize just how unpleasant and stressful it is playing as the monster. I had only access to Goliath because the actual badass sounding monster, the Kraken, required a ludicrous amount of grinding to unlock. No Monster Cthulhu for you, beginner players. You are stuck with Goliath, who is basically the tank from Left 4 Dead 2, but now he has flamethrower breath. Breaking the mold, Turtle Rock. Except here's the problem with playing the monster. You're basically required to grind for better abilities from the start, and it's not until stage 3 of your evolution that you can really beat the opposing hunters, unless they are the most disorganized group of teenagers this side of Friday the 13th. However, you have to take time to fight non-player character wildlife as well, while trying to not get killed by said wildlife or the hunters. Although meanwhile, you have to keep moving all the time so the hunters can't find you, and they can see your footprints unless you literally use stealth mode. The downside to stealth, when you use stealth mode, you move at a pace so slow the hunters are bound to find you. I was repeatedly harassed by a sniper, who is the medic, who does the least amount of damage, yet they kept chipping away my health because of how ineffective the stealth mode is. Why doesn't the monster's trail just appear when it's not been in combat for, say, 30 to 45 seconds? Dunno. That way the hunters never lose chase, but then the monster also would get a chance to breathe, which is the core problem of the monster. You never get a chance to breathe. Instead, Turtle Rock thought it would be better to just force monster players to never even have a moment's respite. Even when you're evolving, your hunters are closing in on you, and other monsters can be attacking you. You can take damage while evolving. It literally just every way possible is made to screw you over. Hunters don't have nearly this level of on-the-job stress, which is ironic, because they're supposed to be at a disadvantage. Unless your squad, as I said, is completely clueless, you will all keep pace and hunt the monster or hold the line to defend the map's other win option for the monster, which is always some large piece of equipment in an open area that the monster needs to smash repeatedly. Most of the time as a hunter, it's quiet and calm, which is the complete opposite of the monster, and you start with your gear maxed out to begin with. You also have someone to depend upon when your health gets low, or when you need a quick overshield as you get up close to the monster. As the Goliath, I had no such kind of support. I had to divert my focus to so many things all at once that I never actually had fun. I have spent over a decade playing multiplayer games, and I was so stressed out after a 30-minute long session of playing as the monster that I had to step away because my arms were physically shaking. I have never had this experience with a multiplayer game. If your design literally causes so much stress that it physically impacts someone, there might be something wrong with it. A decade's worth of staying cool under the pressure couldn't handle just how downright aggravating playing as the monster is. I even tried to play monster amongst a group of hunters who were very uncoordinated when I was actually amongst them, and not great at the game. Even then, I not only lost, but was still being hunted around the map by, as I said, the medic character sniping me. How am I supposed to feel imposing and powerful when the woman who can barely deal any damage is causing me no end of frustration? There's no moment of feeling powerful. There's no transition into feeling like a badass. Even at stage 3, you are just getting by because humans, even if you kill them, they can still potentially get back up. They can still get potentially healed. And if, in the case of you're fighting a team with the trapper being Maggie, her pet Daisy can revive people. So not only do you have to worry about the players, you have to worry about the game itself, just sending that little non-player character for your dog, and she'll magically revive everyone. For the hunters, it's fantastic. It means that even when the monster's at stage 3, you still got a fighting chance. As the monster, it means you never really get a fighting chance until you've mastered the character through so much trial and error that you're ready to punch someone. That does not sound like a good learning curve. By contrast, I really did have a fantastic time on the hunter side of things, especially in one match. In the case of the only monster player that I've encountered that was actually effective at staying out of our sights, This monster had been trolling us in the chat before the match began, speaking nonsense and tapping on his microphone repeatedly whenever we tried to ask what he was saying. This guy was the only person I've ever seen who could make Goliath work, and he remained unseen save for 2 brief instances the entire match, up until his reaching stage 3. We'd already been doing horribly, and we were really aggravated at this point. So we fell back to the map's primary objective, and I realized something. I was playing as the Trapper Maggie, so I could drop her bubble shield, and not only does it contain everything inside, which is normally what it's meant to do, it's supposed to keep the monster in, but it also keeps the monster out. So I dropped it quickly, and we could hear him pounding away at it, but instead of just sitting around, we prepared. Our previously uncoordinated team finally began getting it together. Our assault set his proximity mines all towards every single entrance. Our medic took it to a sniping post that also kept her in range to heal us. The support got in the corner alongside the assault, ready to fire his overshield ability on the assault while also being in perfect range for an orbital barrage attack on the monster. I took to the ground floor, standing right in front of the main objective. This guy had made fools out of us, and that was gonna stop. When I lowered the shield, we were ready. At first he skulked around, and we could even hear him on the roof, looking for us. He was expecting some kind of amateurish ambush, because we hadn't done anything before then. Then when he finally entered, all hell broke loose on his ass. Before we were even 3 minutes into the fight, his armor gave way and we began taking down his health bar chunk by chunk. I kept jet boosting around, unloading my machine gun into his face and weak points, while our mech kept me going. The assault and support rained fire of their own from above, using me as a decoy for them to go unnoticed by the monster. The monster even retreated at one point, going out to hunt and get more armor, but then came running back in and immediately lost it. He did down me once, but just as I respawned, his last bits of new armor gave way, and his final health bar chunk was being wheeled away. I got the pleasure of delivering the final burst of shots on this trolling pain in the arse. I know this sounds probably amazingly awesome to you. It sounds like a fantastic multiplayer match, what you're supposed to get from this sort of game. But it is the only match where things clicked like this. I hate that the game still has so many problems, because at the very least, this core premise is solid for what it is. It may be a bit simple and limited, but if this were the marquee mode in a bigger game, like how Hunters was for Crysis 3 and Warzone was for Killzone 3, then I'd have no problem with it. The issue is that Turtle Rock is trying to build an entire $60 experience around a single game mode that already has some problems and already really lacks player retention. I'm not even exaggerating when I'm saying that the trolling guy was the only person I saw who could use Goliath well. In one match, the monster didn't even get past stage 2 before we took him out. The current balance is so slanted towards hunters that when it comes to beginner monster players, I just see them having trouble without any sort of major retooling being done to the game. Evolve needs a full rebalance in favor more for the monster, because you just basically have almost no chance. Unless you're a perfect natural to it, you have no chance whatsoever. The hunters are great. They all have fun little personalities, even if there are a lot of stereotypes, and one of them is blatantly a ripoff of the Heavy from Team Fortress 2, down to the accent and specific mannerisms. The hunters are great, but Turtle Rock needs to go back to the drawing board with the monster. Even little details like not being able to cancel your evolve state just make it unpleasant. It's these things that have clearly been done for the hunters, but no near about as much time has been devoted to the monsters. Or at least Goliath, because you must grind before you can ever play as the Kraken. This is also still the only mode shown off in Big Alpha. A bot mode was confirmed a while back, so maybe you can at least practice as a monster there, but I doubt you'll earn crucial experience points to unlock new class characters or any new monsters. Which brings me to the next big issue Evolve currently has. Its progression system. Now. What I thought it was going to be, and boy did I go off on that in a podcast, where you get objectively better guns and items over time, was actually a matter of miscommunication on Turtle Rock's part. Instead, the progression system, while not as broken, is just incredibly grindy and frustrating. Yay! You see, there's a normal progression bar that, to my knowledge, served almost no purpose in the alpha other than simply giving you a different rank. And there's also 3 separate mini progression bars. Because fractal grinding, am I right? No one's tired of that from Destiny. You need to get at least 1 star in each to unlock the next character in any given role. So regardless of if you play 1,000 times better as the next character, or that they'd be completely opposite to your playstyle, you are forced to unlock on a linear track that demands sometimes preposterously pretentious numbers for even the single star needed for unlocks. Over 10,000 damage dealt by an orbital barrage as support, the monster almost always runs away before I do more than 500 damage. Are you mental? Challenges are great, Turtle Rock. I'll give you that because they can give players something to aim for. Jetpack Joyride did them wonderfully. You know what Jetpack Joyride also didn't do? Lock off specific pieces of content until I complete the challenges. Even games that do lock content off with challenges, usually it's simply a gun type. Like with Battlefield 4, you need to get a certain rank in the recon class before you can have a shotgun. That works because that's simply just opening up a new option. That's not an entire new character. It's not like you have to play as the assault first in Battlefield to unlock the engineer. You don't do that. That's not how that works, because that will be annoying. And because then you're going to have a ton of players who are only going to have that starting group of characters to play as. Since you're making it all DLC and it's not going to, be a free progression of new hunters and monsters, aren't you basically You're basically incentivizing people to just buy the DLC if they want something new. Otherwise, they have to do a lot of tedious grinding in hopes that they'll get something better, but they aren't sure of. This is a really shitty way to introduce your game to someone. And you know what was also great about challenges in Jetpack Joyride? They were completely optional, and as a result, it felt like a genuine choice of my own to beat them. Same for like when you go after collectibles in a sandbox game. You don't need them, but they benefit you. Dozens of multiplayer games before you have learned this lesson, so why does it feel like the entire concept was a new revelation for your game's design? What's worse is that I fear this might mean you have to doubly unlock DLC characters. Not only with cash, but potentially through the system if you're so stringent on this sort of progression. Hopefully you just buy them and they're unlocked, but this is a game that damn well advertises its season pass like it's a feature. So I'm not taking anything off my radar of expectations. I expect no new lows to be surprising to me. The game's aesthetics are even a mixed bag. Every level looks the same, save for layout and whatever design the human industrial area has, because there's always a human industrial area. Everything is dulled and blackened, in what I have to assume is an attempt to give the monster a fighting chance to not be seen. Spoiler, it doesn't really work. Instead, it just makes most of the visuals feel tired and overly modern, ultra, shooter, gritty, sword heel.
Father, gonna take your daughter out tonight. Gonna show her my world. Father.
What I can say without a doubt is the game's characters are very creative visually and are animated beautifully. If there's one aspect that the game's use of CryEngine 3 has helped, it's making the characters look and move great. Even on low settings for budget rigs like my own, the characters and wildlife look beautiful. The musical half of the sound design is more of a passable sort though, just because of being drowned out by all the gunfire and monster yells. That said, the sound effects themselves are great, comparable to the animation quality, but bring your own music. Now I understand that this is all from my experience with an alpha, that it still has 5 months to get better. 5 months, though, is cutting it more than a bit short, and unfortunately most regular players seem to be lavishing the game on Steam without even taking into consideration the numerous balancing and progression issues. So I'm not very optimistic for the future of the game. In that, I'm saying that, I'm sure this game will sell well, I'm sure Evolve is going to sell well. It will make its money back, probably. But I'm expecting another Titanfall, potentially worse than Titanfall, because even Titanfall had more than what this game has, and it will burn out. There's going to be an esports scene attempt. There's going to be a push for it. There's going to be a certain category of players that absolutely love it, because there's almost always a category of people who absolutely love a game, as has been proven by my Still Alive series. That doesn't change the fact that it really doesn't feel like a game ready for release. This doesn't feel like it's anywhere near release other than visually. The visual aesthetics are done and complete, which makes me question even more if this really was meant to be an alpha, because the game got delayed. It wasn't even going to be releasing 5 months from now. It was going to be releasing around now, actually. It was aiming for an October to December 2014 release date. So, while we're being told that it was pushed forward and that this is the alpha, we're really playing what was going to be the release build on October. We're pretty close to the release build for that. So, bear that in mind. This is the quality the game was going to release in at that time. Realistically, that's how it's going to go. Maybe the 5 months are just what Turtle Rock need. Maybe that will fix everything. But if you're at all like me, just hold off on this one. I love the idea of Evolve's core mode. I love the characters. I love just the very idea of it. But the final product is not impressing me. I've seen source mods with more content and variety and creativity, or equal par source mods. In fact, I'm kind of left surprised that this is even being built in CryEngine. It feels like they could have very easily just modified Left 4 Dead's engine, improved upon the graphics a fair amount, and you would have gotten the same product, but it would have been a lot more stable. Because currently, the PC port is not stable if you are running a low-level rig. The recommended settings for the bare minimum, they underestimate. Or rather, they underestimated. They underestimated just how much horsepower you're actually going to need. Because I had to, for some reason, turn down my resolution to 12800 because for some reason, that gives you 30 FPS. If you run at native resolution, and you're running a rig like mine that is several years old, you have tons of drops in frame rate. As in, roughly every 30 seconds you're going to see a frame rate drop. Some of this will be fixed. But as with when I was playing the Battlefield 4 beta a long time back, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to fix all the problems in time. And I kind of hate this idea that, oh well, it'll be fine. I'm just going to stay wary. And I have to advise you all to stay the same. If you can't resist it, at the very least, don't pre-order it. Don't. Wait for it to be on a Steam sale. December is going to be rolling in. And if anything, I think Turtle Rock understands the value of waiting for a sale. If they do not let it go on sale, if they don't even let like 10% off, then I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. But the only pre-order incentive they're offering right now is a single new monster, and as I said, we don't know how we're going to unlock that monster, if he's going to be available right away or not. But this is not worth $60. This game that I played right here, it's not worth $60. Spend your money on something else. Get a Humble Bundle. You'll be entertained for a lot longer, for a lot cheaper. Or just wait for the Steam sale. Just remember, everyone was over the moon about Destiny's beta, and we all know how that panned out. Don't do that to yourself again.
But if you wanna find hell with me, I'm gonna show you what it's like. Till you're bleeding, I'm not about But if you wanna find hell with me, I'm gonna show you what it's like.